Hello everyone, my name is Akshit. I'm 14 years old and I'm the only member of the team Aeronautica. So our main topic was human involvement in space and outer space. Why did we choose this topic? We firstly wanted to understand human interest in space. That is, we wanted to be able to quantify numerically how interesting humans find space. The topic is of specific importance to me because I find the vast expanse of space to be an extremely interesting topic to explore. And considering that in the future it is likely that we might explore and colonize as well other planets, it is important to understand how the general population views space as an interesting topic and space is the way of the future. Teaching space to a younger audience is also of importance. So that's what a regression analysis was, exploring the relationship between age and interest in space. Our objectives with the analysis was split into three main parts: the survey, the regression analysis, and the external sources analysis. These were the three sorts of analysis we conducted and the three main elements of our presentation. The survey was included to understand the news sources that people were referring to learn about space and also how they preferred the subtopics that we mentioned. Our regression analysis is based on our survey since most of the data for the regression analysis comes from the survey. Our external sources analysis included understanding external sources such as Google, YouTube, and Reddit, and understanding how these trends and preferences are based on a larger scale. We did not include Reddit in this presentation, considering that it has extremely little for us to discuss in a presentation. So our basic survey structure. We included three sorts of questions on a scale of 1 to 10 questions, demographic information questions, and a few open-ended questions. Our demographic information mainly included age, gender, and country. Age was important for our regression analysis, and country was just to check if there was any sort of bias. The gender was also biased towards the male by quite a bit. Our scale of 1 to 10 questions just explored how the general population found the subtopics interesting. And our open-ended questions just included if they had any sort of other extra subtopics that we did not include and what sorts of sources of information they used to learn about space, be it YouTube, Google, Discord, Instagram, whatever, right? And these are our demographics. So the bar chart on the left shows the age distribution and the pie chart on the right shows the distribution of our country. Our subtopic data analysis. We also use some of the information from our scale of 1 to 10 questions to do other analysis than the linear regression. And the data was collected for 14 different subtopics. We used this to understand what the most interesting topics were. The second column that shows the sum of all responses was basically done by adding up all of the numeric values. So for example, we had two respondents and one had given 5 out of 10 and another had given 6 out of 10. The total would be 11 out of 20. So we did the same thing here where the sum of all responses was done out of 1450 since we had 145 respondents. So the subtopic with the lowest score would likely be the least interesting, and the average was just that score divided by 145 to see what the average was. As you can see, Jeff Bezos and his trip to space was actually quite a bit controversial and had the lowest sum of all responses and had an average of only 6.8. We mainly wanted to include this topic because we knew that this had quite a bit of controversy lulling around itself since Jeff Bezos has been accused of many things. We wanted to see if this controversy would make the topic more interesting, but as the respondents have shown, this is clearly not the case. So moving on to our linear regression analysis, which provides quite a bit of information of how the two factors, age and interest, are related. So we produced 16 linear regression models using Python, and our main factors that we used were age and interest. So we had two linear regression models for an overall picture and one for each of the subtopics. So 14 plus 2, that's 16. We had 14 topics overall, and as an outcome, you would receive the graph and two values. The two values which you would receive were the slope and the y-intercept, which could also be known as B0 and B1. So firstly, before we move on and look at the regression graphs itself, we should be understanding how a regression model. B0 is known as the slope and B1 is known as the y-intercept. The higher the value of the B0 or the slope, the better, since that indicates that there's a clear upward trend. And the lower the B1 or the y-intercept, the better, since that indicates a lower interest at a lower age and generally a likely increasing interest. The linear regression model from the last slide, which was an overall picture between a mean interest, which we will get to, what that means, and age, as you can see below. Data cleansing is an extremely important step in all sorts of data science, since you want to eliminate any sort of bias. So in our analysis, we got rid of 21 values across our linear regression analysis, since 19 of them had given 10 for all of the 14 subtopics, which we felt could bias the results. And we also got rid of 2 because these 2 were trolling in some manner. Welcome to the internet. We did consider the responses in other parts of the survey, such as the demographic data that we saw before, the data in regards to what external sources they found interesting, and any other extra comments that they had to say. 2 graphs made for an interesting comparison. So these are our main linear regression model. That means for the overall 14 subtopics that we had. So what we did was we calculated the mean interest for each of the respondents. That is, we added up all the values of all of their 14 subtopics and calculated a mean, dividing that value by 14. So we plotted that against their age on a graph and then had the linear regression line be drawn. And the first one is unbiased, meaning this did not include the 19 values that had a 10 on all of them. And the one on the right was biased, meaning it had those 19 values. As you can see, the bias actually has a weaker trend because it has the lower slope and a higher intercept value. So there was no point in even trying to consider this. We produced regression analysis for all 14 of the subtopics. And these are a few of the subtopic models that were interesting. This Jeff Bezos and his trip to space, as we saw earlier, which was the least liked topic, also had the highest upward trend, meaning it had the highest slope and it also had the lowest y-intercept, which are both good in indicating that this topic has a clear trend that as age grows, interest in this topic increases. This could likely indicate that a younger audience is more aware of all of the controversy around this issue. On the other hand, extraterrestrial/alien life. We actually expected this topic to be more interesting, but as our audience proved, clearly not. This had the strongest downwards trend. That means it was moving downwards as age progressed. This could likely, though, indicate that our younger audience had a preference towards this topic, which would be expected considering how sci-fi has portrayed aliens and so on. And also it had the highest y-intercept. That means this was less predictive. However, this is not necessarily bad. In this case, indicates that our younger audience had a much higher preference to this topic. Moving on to the last part of our analysis, the external sources of information. So as the survey quite clearly displayed, news and YouTube were the most popular. We analyzed Google searches, Reddit and YouTube, and some of the least common sources from the survey were podcasts, books and Discord. It's becoming clearer that sources which involve a lot of time, such as podcasts and books, are becoming less interesting. And Discord is the messaging source. Discord is to say not that popular in India, which is where most of our participants come from. Alright, so moving on to what can be called as more concrete data on YouTube. These are known as tags. So tags are basically metadata. This is not visible to the viewer. However, the creator does give values for this at the back end when he or she is uploading the video. So basically when the creator is uploading a video, they give tags for what sorts of topics their video relates to. The example that is shown below are the tags for a video about cute cats or whatever. So we did some manual data collection in regards to this, and you can find out how often a certain tag is searched for. For example, the search term space has a search volume of 1.4 million in the last month. However, there are a few minor issues with tags, since these are case sensitive and also sometimes affected by very minor changes in the word. Tags are extremely helpful in understanding how trending a certain topic is, because these are based on search volume, and views can't exactly be a good measure, since a video on the same topic could have anywhere from 15 million views to only 100,000 depending on the creator. Google Trends just shows how interesting a certain topic is based on search volume on Google on a numeric scale from 0 to 100, and it shows this over a period of time. So we will include 2 Google Trends charts here that I personally found the most interesting. The SpaceX peaks around the 25th of November during the launch of Crew Dragon, and the Google Trends charts for the phrase alien life peaks around September 13th or September 15th, as the United States government said they identified some sort of UFO/aerial phenomena that they weren't able to identify what it was. And thank you.